The training continued, this time with greater intensity. Vera taught Yama many essential skills for navigating the corporate world, particularly in managing diverse clients and communicating with them confidently. Yama knew she had to adapt quickly.
In the world where rocks exists, your patience and character will be constantly tested. It's up to you how you handle it. Sometimes, you'll need to compromise or go with the flow. But don't let them get to you.
Vera reminded Yama with a firm yet encouraging tone. One evening when Rox returned from work, he spoke to Yama.
By the way, I have a gala to attend tomorrow night. Can you accompany me? I need someone to be there with me.
Rox said, catching Yama off guard. She wasn't sure if she was ready.
What? Tomorrow night? Is it a gathering of all the elite in your industry? Do you think I'm prepared enough to face them all?
Yama asked anxiously, her worry evident.
Yeah, it's a charity event, a gathering of people who want to contribute to a greater cause. To be honest, these events are often used as an opportunity to show off wealth, grab attention, and promote business. It becomes a personal gain for others and not for charity.
Rox explained.
Don't worry, I'll be with you, so just relax. I'll send someone to help you get ready for the event.
Yama felt hesitant, but she reminded herself that this was the purpose of her training. She knew a day like this would come. When night fell, everything was prepared. Yama took a deep breath and slowly descended the stairs, where Rox was already waiting in the living room.
Yama, brace yourself. You can do this. It's time to show what you've learned.
She whispered to herself, trying to calm her nerves. Despite her worries, she knew this was her first step into a world she wasn't familiar with, let alone act as the person she isn't used to. As Yama descended the stairs, she noticed Rox watching her intently. The way he looked at her made her feel both nervous and shy.
You look amazing tonight. Absolutely beautiful.
Rox said, his voice sincere. Yama smiled at him, feeling a warmth she hadn't expected. She had heard compliments before, but coming from Rox, a man of such high stature, it felt entirely different.
Thanks. I just hope I can carry myself well throughout the evening.
Yama replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty.
Don't worry too much. You got me. No one would dare say anything inappropriate as long as you're with me.
Rox reassured her. His words were comforting, and she appreciated the ease he brought to her nerves. Rox extended his hand to assist her into the car, his actions gentlemanly and considerate.
How long have you been attending this event? And what's it really about?
Yama asked as they settled into the vehicle.
I've been supporting this event for a decade. This charity is close to my heart. My mom died of leukemia, and my foster dad passed away from cancer. It's a battle I feel deeply connected to. I want others going through these illnesses to know they're not alone. These diseases aren't just physical struggles, but more on emotional battles too.
Rox began, his tone softening. Yama listened intently, surprised by the depth and vulnerability in his words. She hadn't known this side of Rox, so gentle, so deeply caring for those less fortunate. Though she had doubted him before, assuming his help always came with ulterior motives, maybe she had been wrong about him after all. When they arrived at their destination, the scene was bustling with activity. Paparazzi lined the entrance, some snapping photos while others conducted interviews with the high-profile guests.
Don't leave my side. The paparazzi can be intimidating sometimes. Just hold my hand, and you'll be fine.
Rox said reassuringly. As expected, the moment they stepped out of the car, Rox was swarmed with questions and inquiries from the media.
Mr. Wilford, who is this stunning lady beside you? Is she your girlfriend?
One reporter asked eagerly. Yama instinctively held onto Rox's arm, offering a polite smile despite the anxiety tightening in her chest. She was determined not to let her nerves show. Sensing her unease, Rox gently placed a reassuring hand on hers.
She's someone special. That's all for now, everyone. Have a good evening.
Rox replied smoothly, his tone firm but warm. Without lingering, Rox guided Yama into the function hall, swiftly avoiding further commotion. The entire evening she stayed beside Rox, who was engaged in conversations with various people she assumed were all businessmen. Occasionally she was included in the discussions and contributed briefly. She listened intently, focusing on the conversation, eager to learn now that she was in a real-world work setting. She also observed how Rox commanded the room, his dominance in the discussions and the respect others showed him. It was clear who he was in the industry. Whenever she felt bored, Rox would touch her hand and gently draw circles on her palm, as though soothing her and bringing her comfort. As the night went on, she continued observing her surroundings, how people behaved, walked, and talked. In the past, she had only seen these kinds of people from a distance while serving food at events she helped organize. But now she could hardly believe she was a part of the event. When the food was served and they were about to eat, someone called Rox's attention. It was a beautiful and sophisticated woman. The way she interacted with him suggested they were close.
Hey Margie, how are you?
Rox greeted her casually. The woman sat down next to Rox, ignoring Yama completely, even though it was clear Rox had company. Margie ordered her food and started talking to Rox as if Yama weren't there. However, Rox's attention remained on Yama, serving food onto her plate. Margie kept talking to him, but Rox continued his conversation with Yama, leaving the situation so absurd it made Yama silently laugh. How could this woman not understand that Rox didn't want her there? Yama continued eating, carefully minding her actions and surroundings. She was determined not to make a mistake that might reflect poorly on Rox. Meanwhile, Margie finally realized that Rox wasn't interested in engaging with her.
You're doing well with your training. I saw the results just now.
Rox said, looking at Yama with approval. Yama glanced at him, surprised. Had he been observing her the entire evening?
So, you mean I passed your assessment?
Yama asked with a hint of curiosity.
You did more than that. You were dignified and composed, more cultured than Margie, even though she grew up in high society. Her attitude doesn't reflect her upbringing. She deliberately tried to provoke you and bully you, but you never stooped to her level. Tonight, you showed how a true lady should act.
Rox replied with a small smile. Yama felt a surge of happiness at Rox's compliment. It was proof that her efforts and training had not been in vain. As the evening progressed, Yama and Rox sat comfortably, talking and sipping their drinks. Rox gently reminded her not to drink too much since she wasn't accustomed to alcohol. But Yama, enjoying the taste, drank a little more than she intended. Eventually, she began to feel dizzy and decided it was time to head home.
Thank you, Yama, for accompanying me tonight. I enjoyed spending time with you.
Rox said sincerely as they prepared to part ways.
It was my pleasure to join you tonight. This was my first glimpse into your world, and honestly, I didn't think I could do it. But I did, and it turned out to be a great experience. Thank you for staying by my side. I felt comfortable and safe because of you.
Yama replied with gratitude.
I'm glad to hear that. Have a good night, Yama.
Rox said then. Leaning in, he gave her a gentle kiss, leaving her momentarily stunned. She reasoned it must be a common gesture in his circles, a simple hug or kiss before saying goodnight. Yet she couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth and specialness from his actions. After a few weeks, the training has finally come to an end.
Yama, good luck on your journey. You can call me anytime if you need help. In the short period we've had together, I've developed a bond with you, like a sister. I'm happy to have worked with you. Take care, but I know you're in good hands with Rox.
Vera said before bidding goodbye. She is also grateful to know Vera. She learned a lot and he enjoyed the training. Even though her sessions with Vera had ended, Yama never stopped learning. She continued studying diligently, deeply focused on her materials.
You're so engrossed you didn't even notice me. Take a break sometimes.
Rox's voice startled Yama from behind. Yama turned to face him, surprised to see him in the garden where she was studying. Rox had been abroad on a business trip for the past week.
I thought you'd be gone longer.
Nah, everything went smoothly, so I came back as soon as my schedule cleared.
Rox replied with a casual smile. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small box and handed it to her.
For you?
Rox simply said. Yama looked at the box, puzzled.
What is this?
Just a little something. I saw it in the street while I was abroad and thought of you.
Rox encouraged her to open it. As she lifted the lid, she was mesmerized. Inside was a set of elegant jewelry, its quality and craftsmanship unmistakably luxurious.
Why would you give me something so expensive? I can't accept this.
Yama stammered, holding the box as if it might burn her hands. She hesitated before attempting to return it. Rox looked taken aback.
Why not? Don't you like it?
No, it's beautiful, but it's too much. I'm afraid I'll lose it. Something like this should be kept safe.
Yama explained, her uneasiness is evident.
How do you know it's expensive?
Rox asked curiously.
I may not be familiar with luxury, but the logo, the packaging, and the fact that you bought it abroad make it obvious. People like you don't just buy cheap trinkets or buy something in the street.
Rox chuckled at her logic, realizing how transparent his excuse had been.
You're right, I didn't buy it from some street vendor. But I really did think of you when I saw it. I know it'll look good on you. Don't worry about the price. I gave it to you with a good heart. Besides, you're working with me now. What you wear represents my image too, so you'll need nice things.
Yama considered his words and nodded. He had a point. She was now part of his world, and how she presented herself mattered. Hesitantly, she accepted the gift. It was the first time someone had given her anything so thoughtful, or so valuable. Even her late husband had never given her a gift throughout their entire relationship.
By the way, I've been invited to be the keynote speaker at a business convention in the Visayas. I'd like you to come with me. I'll also take the opportunity to visit some of my businesses there and take a short vacation. It's been a while since I've had a break. What do you think?
Yama agreed. She had never taken a vacation in her life. Though it was technically work-related, traveling somewhere new felt like a big step for her. The day of the trip arrived and they boarded Rox's private jet. It was Yama's first time traveling by air and she couldn't hide her nervousness. Noticing her trembling, Rox leaned toward her.
Are you okay? Don't worry, it's just like traveling on a bus. Only much better. You won't even notice you're flying. If you feel uneasy, just hold on to me.
Rox said reassuringly. His words comforted her and she relaxed. By the time they landed, Yama had thoroughly enjoyed the experience, marveling at the ease and luxury of the journey. After arriving at one of Rox's hotels, they took some time to relax. The event wouldn't begin until the evening, so there was plenty of time. For Yama, tonight would be a test of her independence. Without anyone to assist her, she would need to rely entirely on herself to prepare. When the gown arrived in her room, she carefully followed Vera's tips on makeup, hairstyling, and dressing. Once ready, she took a moment to look at herself in the mirror. She could hardly believe the transformation. As the hour approached, a knock at her door signaled Rox's arrival. She grabbed her purse and stepped out to meet him. Rox stared at her, his silence making Yama uneasy.
Is something wrong with my makeup or my gown?
Yama asked hesitantly. Breaking his silence, Rox said,
No, you look mesmerizing. Beautiful as always, but tonight you're more than that. You look regal and absolutely gorgeous, especially in that dress. It suits you perfectly.
Though she'd been complimented before, this felt different. Seeing herself through Rox's eyes, she began to believe she could be beautiful. At the event, all eyes were on them. Rox was the distinguished guest of honor at the annual Business League. Yama stayed close, diligently taking notes and keeping track of those seeking to collaborate with Rox. She performed her duty as his secretary escort, and at the same time his partner. She juggled her roles seamlessly. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew more relaxed. Conversations shifted from business to casual banter as guests began drinking and enjoying themselves. Yama excused herself to go to the restroom. Rox offered to accompany her, but she insisted he stay, knowing many businessmen were still vying for his attention. After taking care of her needs, stretching her legs and retouching her makeup, Yama left the restroom feeling refreshed. But as she stepped into the dimly lit corridor, a man suddenly grabbed her arm and pulled her into a darker corner. Fear gripped her as she realized he was intoxicated.
Who are you? What do you think you're doing?
Yama yelled, her voice trembling but firm. The man, clearly drunk and unsteady, only laughed.
You've caught my eye since you walked in. You're so beautiful I couldn't resist. Tonight, I want you to be mine.
The guy slurred. Realizing he was dangerous, Yama tried to run, but the man caught her and shoved her against the wall. She fought back, biting his arm, which only enraged him. He struck her across the face, leaving her stunned and in pain. The man grabbed her neck and face, trying to kiss her. Summoning all her strength, Yama pushed him away and fell to the ground, injuring her ankle in the process. The man loomed over her, smiling cruelly.
You can scream all you want, but no one will help you. I own this hotel, and no one dares to defy me. If you surrender now, I'll make sure you have everything you desire.
Tears streamed down Yama's face as she cried out helplessly. The music from the event hall drowned her screams, and the area was too isolated for anyone to hear. Suddenly, a powerful punch sent the man flying away from her. A loud, furious voice echoed in the dark.
How dare you touch my woman?
It was Rox. His face was dark with rage as he attacked the man who barely had time to react. Despite her pain, Yama tried to pull Rox back, fearing he might go too far. Security and other guests arrived, attempting to break up the fight.
What's going on here? Mr. Wilford, why did you hit my son?
This is your son? Then you'd better teach him some lessons, or I will.
Dad, she seduced me. She's nothing but a flirt.
The guy shouted, attempting to shift the blame. Furious, Rox punched him again.
How dare you accuse her of that?
Rox shouted furiously. Turning to the older man, Rox said,
Mr. Reyes, I think you've seen enough of what your son is capable of. I won't let this go unpunished. Your son is going to jail. I'll see you in court.
Mr. Reyes tried to negotiate, but Rox wouldn't hear it. Declaring he wanted no further association with the event, Rox escorted Yama back to their suite and called a doctor to examine her. Once they were alone, Rox's anger was palpable.
Why didn't you call me right away? Do you know what could have happened if I hadn't come in time?
Tears filled Yama's eyes. He tried to reason out.
I didn't want to cause a scene and risk tarnishing your reputation. I thought I could handle it on my own, but he was too strong.
Rox's expression softened, though his anger didn't fully dissipate.
Yama, you're more important to me than anything in this business. Don't ever put yourself at risk to protect my reputation. I'll make sure that man pays for what he did. He'll rot in jail.
Yama nodded, her tears falling freely. She can't believe Rox is willing to taint her name for her. Rox was consumed by rage and frustration after witnessing what had happened to Yama. How could that scumbag dare to hurt her? Seeing her lying on the ground, bruised and helpless, made him see red. His emotions boiled over, especially when the man accused her of seduction. Rox knew Yama better than anyone. A woman of dignity, integrity, and unwavering moral values. She had no interest in wealth or status, a truth she had proven to him time and time again. It was precisely these qualities that made him admire and care for her even more. His mind drifted back to the first time he met her, recalling every detail as if it were yesterday. It was at a friend's party. He had been instantly captivated by her natural beauty, the innocence in her eyes, and the gentle femininity of her features. But it wasn't just her appearance that drew him in. It was her soft-spoken demeanor, her tireless work ethic, and the sincerity in her every action. Throughout the night, Rox found himself watching her, fascinated by her movements. Despite her obvious exhaustion, she greeted every client with enthusiasm and grace, her smile never faltering. When he finally got the chance to speak with her, he was even more impressed. She was a woman who faced life's hardships with resilience and gratitude, content with the little she had while striving to improve her family's circumstances. From that moment, Rox knew he wanted to be part of her life. He sought opportunities to be closer to her, offering ways for her to earn money and provide for her loved ones. The more he got to know her, the deeper his admiration grew. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, a simple woman with simple dreams. But his admiration turned to heartbreak when he discovered she was married. For the first time, he experienced the pain of wanting someone he couldn't have. Respecting the sanctity of her marriage, he distanced himself, though it pained him to do so. He noticed that Yama's behavior toward him also changed, as if she sensed his inner conflict. Then, everything shifted when her husband John approached Rox. Without hesitation, John bluntly asked if he was interested in Yama. Shocked but honest, Rox admitted his feelings, though he maintained his boundaries. What horrified him, however, was John's offer. He would sell Yama to Rox in exchange for money. Disgusted and enraged, Rox couldn't believe what he was hearing. What kind of man would stoop so low as to sell his own wife? When Rox investigated further, he uncovered the financial struggles that had driven John to such a degrading act. Worse still, he learned that Yama was completely unaware of her husband's despicable schemes. From that moment, Rox vowed to protect Yama. She deserved far better than the life she was trapped in. He knew that if he didn't intervene, John would eventually sell her to someone else, driven by desperation and the toxic influence of his so-called friends. John's manipulation came to a head when he orchestrated a plan to force Yama into agreeing to his terms. He staged an incident that left her with no choice but to go along with his scheme. Rox, though reluctant, decided to play along for Yama's sake. As expected, Yama fiercely resisted the arrangement. Her outright rejection stung Rox's pride. He wasn't used to being turned down. Most women openly sought his attention, yet the one woman he wanted didn't want him. But he understood her reasons. Yama was a principled woman who valued her marriage vows, no matter how undeserving her husband was. That's when Rox proposed the contract. He offered Yama security and independence, promising to respect her boundaries. Even if she didn't love him, he was content to protect her. For Rox, the most important thing was to get her away from John and give her a chance to rebuild her life. He saw the contract as a means to transform Yama's circumstances, not only by offering her safety but also by helping her develop skills that would empower her. Rox secretly hoped that within the year he could earn her trust and perhaps her affection. But he was prepared to let her go if that's what she wanted. His love for her was selfless, driven by a genuine desire to see her happy. Now, seeing how far Yama had come, Rox felt pride and joy. She had grown into a confident and capable woman, slowly letting down the walls she had built around her heart. He cherished her deeply, treating her like a queen because that's how he believed she deserved to be treated. Rox's love for Yama only intensified his resolve to make the man who hurt her pay. He wouldn't rest until justice was served. No one would get away with treating the woman he loved with anything less than the respect and care she deserved.